Be not afraid. So we've already discussed the wages and the sentiment of each and every paladin, each and every type of you. And now I suppose I want to go over some generalized principles that you should keep aware of going forward in what's going to be a cultural conflict. I like to call this video a code of conduct. Things that you should keep in mind and things that you should tether to your reputation. And the first one, a part of your reputation, I suppose first behavior I would encourage you to participate with be to guard your tongue. Think about what you're going to say to people before you speak. The way our enemy has attacked us so easily is because we have been far too relaxed about the value of speaking to people and talking to each other and discussing solutions or problems. It's far too easy for you to say one sentence online one time and forever have your reputation ruined. Forever. And for you to never really be able to recover from it. It's important for you to guard the understanding of what speech is. The fact that our government will now punish us for certain phrases that we say, for example, talking publicly about how the Islamic prophet Muhammad married a 6-year-old and consummated with her before she turned 9, would qualify as some kind of hate speech and a reason to throw you in jail. So it's important that you never forget why it's important that you maintain your speech. And there's 150 videos on YouTube that go over and emphasize the importance of free speech and talking and dialogue. And how the moment someone has the ability to catch and hold your tongue, they have the ability to enslave you. It sounds radical and extreme to go from, how is telling me I can't discuss certain subjects a direct chain to slavery? And ultimately it comes down to, if I stop you from discussing certain actions at the threat of throwing you in jail, I can cultivate what your children will believe is right and wrong. And then it'll only take maybe 1 or 2 generations, and I can convince children to cut off their testicles and breasts for the sake of humanity and doing the right thing, for discovering your true self. You know, that kind of rhetoric, let's say. I can cultivate that into the minds of children. And it's not reserved to just root-based behaviors. This could be many subjects that we can cultivate with this. For example, we're not allowed to discuss immigration without coming across like we're racists. And now I have to be careful about what I say around the concept of people coming into my home that I did not choose for them to be there, and then if I'm mad about that, I go to jail. Because here in the United Kingdom, we do not have free speech or free expression. We don't. We just simply do not. And every time one of our politicians lies to another politician in the world, or even the public or the press, or all the press participate in this, but whoever, and they say that we do have free speech, it is an objective lie. They want the system in place, this war machine, this beast, wants to curate your language themselves. So it's an important quality that you develop. You must cultivate your language. Don't let the system that wants to destroy you steal it from you. Keep it for yourself. Your own speech is a weapon that they can never truly control. They can only convince you to give it up. The next principle that I would like to bring forward, the next behavior you should incorporate into your character to strengthen the substance that you are, is don't engage in empty pleasure. It's pointless to you. It works like this. I will set a hungry dragon to move against you, but it'll only move when you look away from it. So then, once I've set this monster in the room with you, obviously it doesn't move because you know better than to look away, but I'm going to send porn. And of course, you get distracted because who doesn't love a pair of titties? And as a result, you look away. And the dragon in the room gets bigger and creeps in. It does not take very long before that dragon fills the entire space that you're in. And like a predator, it does start with the little ones and the vulnerable ones first. It always does. That's just the nature of predators. It looks for the easy targets, not the difficult ones. So for as long as I can give you these empty pleasures and convince you to go and get drunk at the weekend, because I wouldn't want you training and getting strong at the weekend. I mean, God forbid that the English people strengthen themselves. We can't be having that. So, by resisting and moving against those empty pleasures, you create space within your own living experience that you can choose to plug in different features. You don't have to scroll for 3 hours on pornography. I mean, sure, it looks good, but it leads to nothing and it's empty. It's a picture of a cheeseburger. It isn't even the real thing. It's vain. And it's something that everyone that has ever been distracted has always done, so you're not doing anything different. You're distracted. Another one of these distractions, as I said, going out and drinking on the weekend. Fair enough, everyone's got to cut loose. And even still, having a drink and celebrating and being merry and feasting isn't something I'm against, isn't something against the Paladin ideology. It is the idea that you would just go drinking every weekend because you earned a paycheck. There's no reason to celebrate. It's kind of pointless to celebrate for that reason. It's almost like a little piece of paper they use to enslave you is your god of some kind. It's kind of strange. And I think simply by resisting empty pleasure, you gain enough space on this problem for you to see it for what it is, a distraction piece. When there's war happening at your gates, a tyrant would throw more popcorn and send you to the circus. Forever distracted at the circus because, for as long as you're there, you're not at the gates. Nice and easy. So, take on board what I've said. Cut out, even if you just cut off one empty pleasure you engage with, you will see a positive change. I don't even have to know what it is you're doing, and you will have a positive change. That's how true the information is. The next behavior I will add is a little bit more metaphysical, I suppose, but it's to honor your mother and your father. And that doesn't mean specifically the mother and father that you personally grew up with. What I mean by this is Learn to respect the history that you came from. Because I see so many people, older than myself and younger than myself, spew known bullshit lies about English culture that just doesn't make sense. Like one time hearing a guy in a pub say, England has no culture of its own, so what's the problem? Meanwhile, outside that very pub window was a 700-year-old castle. Like, what? Like, how blind does that person need to be to not understand that that castle represents hundreds of years of history and survival? Well, what did he not understand about it? Well, it's very simple. He was never taught his history because he doesn't respect his own land. He doesn't respect his own country. He doesn't respect the culture that motivated people today to think there is such a thing as moral good, right and wrong. Which is unbelievably paradoxical to me. Like, for example, you believe that hurting a child is wrong, obviously, nice and simple, everyone knows this. Except you're not aware that in every culture before the British Empire came over and took over by force, they didn't care. And when someone comes forward and says, well, actually, before the British Empire showed up, there was laws and rules around. No, there wasn't. Why are you lying? Why are you actually lying about the historical record? Stop trying to rewrite history. So, to come back to my point, a paladin should pride himself and take pleasure in the fact that his ancestors have a legitimate history here. That's hundreds and hundreds of years old. There is not one part of the world that England personally hasn't influenced. Not one single part where there is civilization has England not had an influence. Every single part. And when you look back in every country's history, the point where they started having democracy and voting and actually was enforced to engage in global trade, it was the English that set the structure up and then played it out and then gave them back their country, and then we left and then we traded with them. And then those same liberal cocks would then drop the line of, so that the English could exploit them. Regardless of how the trade behaviour worked, yes, the English showed up, gave them a civilization, and then they engaged in trade that then the British Empire abused. Fair enough, the British Empire was not clean, but what empire is? But that doesn't take away from the fact that before the English Empire showed up, it wasn't even a proper civilization. Women were still getting burned and children were still being sold as either effigies to burn on altars or as toys. And then the British showed up, woo, and ruined all your fun. And now you still live with that behaviour and sentiment in your heart. When you see a child get hurt, it rubs you wrong. Why? Because you have grown up in a culture that the English set out hundreds of years ago that suggested we should protect the little ones amongst our people. This in itself was inspired by the Bible, Christianity. That's just true. And it's like, and you don't have to care about Christianity for you to be able to acknowledge the fact that that is a historical fact. And when you go against that historical fact, you are no longer permissible to stand on you're doing the right thing. You're no longer allowed to stand on that lens. You're exempt, you're excommunicated from the discussion the moment you remove that fact. And I'd extend this to anyone who says that the West is a secular culture. No. That's a new thing. And it's because we stopped being Christian and became secular that we've had so many problems. So before we had the problems and we owned the whole planet, that's what built the West. Where the West was built, not where the West is now. So, just anytime someone gives you that argument, genuinely just tell them to get the fuck out the room. I'm going to leave that in. Because they are a fly in the ointment. They are throwing bodies in the well we all drink from. And if we have to engage in some kind of democratic discussion with someone that's going to throw bodies into the public well, no, we don't. We don't have to do that anymore. We've tried that 75 years and it got 250,000 little girls raped. So no, we're not going to do that anymore. We shouldn't. Why should we? Democracy is not the solution here. The democracy that we've got right now is not the solution, at least. Maybe we could have a restoration of our culture and our behaviour, maybe. But a part of me doesn't believe this will happen without a heavier hand. To come back to my point, to honour your parents is more than just respect your mum and dad. It's also to respect your ancestry. It's also to respect the culture and traditions that got you to this point successfully. If everyone drew a cross on their forehead every Sunday, and it meant that everybody in that country prospered for an entire week, there is no reason to stop drawing the cross on the forehead just because a couple of people from outside of our tribe started saying something different. And they saw it different. It doesn't matter. They did not prosper like we did. So our prosperity, our fruit, is the evidence, not what we chose. We chose to go against what we wanted because we just want to stay distracted, scrolling, looking at boobies. And when we went against that, we became so mighty that the whole world became ours. The next behavior that I'd include is something that I imply at the end of every video. I'm not going to stop. But it's to be prepared for a siege. I encourage everybody that watches this video to go and look into something called the Kristallnacht. It was an event that took place in Germany where the Nazis ran through their streets and murdered all the Jews. You understand that in Islamic countries, they've done Kristallnachts within the last 100 years. I believe within the last 20 years. They don't call it Kristallnacht. We call it that, the Night of Broken Glass. But they call it Intifada? I don't know. They call it the Holy War, the Holy Mission, the holy responsibility of every Muslim to enforce Sharia over the whole world. And when they get the opportunity, they have, and they will, and they're going to attempt to Kristallnacht us, the English natives, the British natives. They will try this. And our king will look the other way. He wants this to happen. That's why he's become Muslim before it happens. Otherwise, his head is on the chopping block. So, I'm just going to put this out there now. I am going to fight aggressively if it comes to my home. And I mean my actual home. And I don't live in a building. I live in an island. I think it's important that everyone is aware of what a Kristallnacht looks like and why it's important for you to look into what other countries are currently experiencing similar abuses. Multiple places in Africa right now are currently experiencing whole crystal night experiences where Islamists are going over and slaughtering people, murdering them by the hundreds. They take female hostages and they chant, "We will rape pure Arab babies and purify their wombs with our children." And it's like, and we think they're not going to do it to us for 75 years to 250,000 children. How many of them? Doesn't matter. Our little daughters, their bodies are already under siege. You, the men that sit around and say, "We should do something," your bodies, nah, you're still good, so it's not time to get involved yet. That's the sentiment we're all holding, right? No, of course not. We're just waiting for someone to hold the banner. It's important you prepare yourself. It's important that you prepare your home. Tell your children what is happening to this country so they know what's going on. Educate your daughters on what's really happening. So then when they're approached by these types of adult men, even your little 9, 10-year-old girls are approached by adult men, they know what's about to happen. They know the gravity of the situation they're in. They know that when a Muslim approaches them, a child, he's not doing it out of altruism. He's investigating to see how engaged the parents are. That is what's happening. And if it turns out that the parents are not involved, "I'll be your daddy," I'm sure is what a lot of those poor souls experienced. I'll make a final point to a behavior that's healthy for the Paladin's spirit and substance. And I'm sure you was expecting me to say, read the scriptures every day. And while that is absolutely advice I would give, that's not the subject that I'm talking about today. The advice I would give here is try to live simply. The more things you have, the easier it is to manipulate your feelings. And it's so difficult to explain why this effect happens, but it's all to do with the fear of losing. But if you give up more and more stuff, you will find that it's harder for you to feel like you lost. And when you get to the point where the only thing you can lose are people, a new creature inside of you can make itself present. I say creature, it was so disrespectful for me to describe our God like that, but you make space. You make room in your heart and in your living experience for greater truth. And hey, I imagine not a lot of you want to have the truth because it's bitter and it's ugly and it requires you to actually step up and do something. And I suppose if you have that sentiment of, "Oh, I've got to go and do this," then I don't think I want you. And I don't think I want you. But you're not the people I'm looking for. I'm looking for the people that say, born too late to explore the world, born too early to explore the stars, but I'm just in time to save the West. You know the rest of the bit. Please think on these 5 principles that I've put before you. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of living water, that bringeth forth the fruit of his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Please think about what I've said and stay close to our Lord Jesus. Change is going to happen. And on one side, we've got our way of voting out of this. And on this side, this is when you say we can't vote our way out. And all I've got left is to ask God to get involved. Stay close. Let's be with you.